things that people might not know. We had honest to goodness breaking news when we were recording earlier segments of the podcast. Mick, please let the people know what the Bruins have done.
Daniel Paille, not to be confused with the great Marcel Paille, who tended goal for the Rhode Island Reds.
Or paella, a tasty Spanish dish with rice and other things.
Glad I already ate it. That would have really made me hungry.
Continuing.
No, but the Bruins, the aftermath of the Chuck Kobasu to Minnesota deal, the Bruins trade a third-round pick and a conditional fourth-rounder in next summer's draft to the Buffalo Sabres for forward Daniel Paille, who had become a spare part. 2 games so far, 1 assist. I guess Buffalo is moving on here, and I'm not sure I haven't had time. I just got this, so I haven't had time to figure out what's going on with this guy yet. But I'm sure we'll all find out soon enough. Asterisk for an asterisk. But this asterisk, I'm not sure what Paille's salary is. I should have found that out before I came in here. But I'm sure it's not $2.33 million.
I was about to say they were paying quite a bit for a third line winger.
Yeah, kind of a tween or a second or a third.
Yeah.
He was not. 1 assist in 7 games. The very thing that the Bruins needed out of Kobasu, they came to a conclusion that they had a better chance of getting it out of Vladimir Sobotka and or Brad Marchand, and it maybe light a fire under the hockey pants of the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And if that's what it takes for the Bruins to achieve that frenzied level of desperate play that has been so prevalent among the overachieving teams, your Phoenix Coyotes and Colorado Avalanche, bottom feeders a year ago, expected to do nothing this year, and look at the Atlanta Thrashers. There's another one. They're going to put John Anderson on NHL conference call tomorrow to discuss the Thrashers start. So hold off on all the Kovalchuk talk, everybody. They may want to keep the guy.
Yeah.
So it's early. It's so early. The ship tends to right itself. So, those teams are going to be awful and the Bruins going to be great? Probably not. But, this is just now another change. Daniel Paille in a Bruins uniform. So,
going back to the Kobasu trade, when that came down yesterday, day before.
By the way, another French-Canadian from Ontario.
Yes.
Like Mark Savard.
I was stunned by how Chiarelli keeps taking nothing and turning it into something. Because he took this cap hit who was giving them nothing, and he turned it into another draft pick. He turned it into a potential guy. He turned it into a rights to another guy, and freed himself up to do a deal like this, and basically took the cap room. He got the cap room back for a guy who was not playing with that kind of kamikaze, crash the net, go face first at the puck attitude that he'd had the last couple of years for whatever reason.
Yeah, and my ESPN Boston colleague, Matt Kalman, is crediting a Canadian writer for noting that one of the deals with Kobasu winds up at the Wild, which are having problems this year. Well, he wants to make sure they don't have too many problems and fall behind Toronto. Anything to keep the Leafs as far down.
Can you fall behind Toronto?
You know what? This is a legendarily bad start, but let us not forget that the 1980-81 Boston Bruins started out something like 2-9-1 and wound up getting 100 points. It didn't end well. They get swept by Minnesota, which made the finals. But, you can turn things around. So
yeah.
The thing that I look at with this team, and there's obviously a lot to be written, is last year we saw, whether it was Manny Fernandez or Tim Thomas, they didn't give up a lot of goals. They simply didn't. Whereas this year they're almost allowing, what are they at, 20, 21 goals?
Well,
so
they had
far?
those 2 consecutive home ice blowouts. Well, they weren't consecutive. They lost bad home ice.
Thursday
then
nights.
Then they killed Carolina. Then they lost bad home ice. So if they can somehow extricate themselves from that. Did I just turn a knob here or something?
You tweaked some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. All the levels are off. If they can get that out of the way and say, okay, we're done with the awful stuff. Let's just work on our game and start grinding it out. Everybody on the same page, all for one for all. Then, that'll be a stat that'll slowly droop away into something's more normal.
Is it have they been really a failing of the defense? Have they been a failing of the guys between the pipes? What can we point these to?
No one thing. It's really, I think if there's any one thing, and it's a collective issue when you talk about all the players, the collective issue has been that they have not been able to manufacture the desire that teams with something truly to prove. And now here we are in this situation where Chuck Kobasu goes Daniel Paille is in, Marchand and Sobotka are up, and in the turmoil that comes with that and the uneasiness that comes with that is there is something that has now become real motivating stuff that they have been trying to manufacture and match the frenzied tempo at which other teams have been playing. And the Bruins aren't that fast naturally to begin with. They got a lot of guys who are probably on the slow side of average. So they need to play with great chemistry in order to have team speed, per se, quote unquote.
How much of it is it going to be that having a guy like Sobotka who's been so hungry to stay with the team, and every time he's been with the team has had, especially this past preseason, just played with a fury, and probably should have made the team were it not for the cap reasons. How much that could be the difference maybe in just getting everyone else moving.
I would like to see him play. I hope that in this situation where Coach Julian is going to be doing some line experimenting, that Sobotka winds up in at least a couple of scenarios where he is with skill, and we can find out if he can score. If he's with, maybe it's the trio that makes the difference here, because I think Bergeron is also a great player as far offensively when given wingers. So I don't really not sure how it's going to work best, but I would love to see Sobotka be in a situation where he can score goals rather than be pigeonholed into a checking, pestering role, which will obviously be what Marchand is doing. Marchand is a yapper. I read in one of some, I can't remember, I think it was Joe Haggerty's blog, that he arrived at practice with a big welt under his eye and a fat lip because he had trash-talked an opponent in their last AHL game who jumped over the boards and suckered him, and then Sobotka suckered him, and then a complete melee broke out. So,
did Tuukka Rask throw a stick at some point in all of this?
You know what? I don't know if the milk carton came flying over or what, but he was in Boston waiting, so he's probably just having a few yucks with his old homies.
Well, are we going to see Bitts move up? Or are they going to not touch that fourth line who's been so good? Or are we going to see Bitts move up and play? Because he played a little bit last year on the upper lines.
Good question, Nick. I think time will tell. I think what we see out of the next 3 games or so with what they want to do. I mean, they started this whole thing this year by putting Sturm on right wing with Savard and said, let's throw one guy whose season was upside down to begin with in a situation where if he responds, it'll be like nothing changed because we'll be able to leave everything else alone this way. Well, guess what? One other thing I'm kind of overlooking here when we talk about what ails the Bruins and what might improve. They're sort of discombobulated in the back end. And I think some of that is Derek Morris is new to Claude Julien's system of when you're coming back and the team dumps the puck in the Boston zone, or they're bringing the puck into the Boston zone. The defenseman's job in Boston is a little different than what it is in most scenarios. You have your job as a defenseman isn't to go eliminate the puck carrier and let the forwards fill in behind you in case something goes wrong or they make a play to somebody. The defenseman protects the patch of ice, and the forward or your support, whoever that is, comes in and does the attacking of the puck carrier. So the defensemen stay in a more controlled atmosphere and do position a shot, block shots, clear rebounds, whatever. It's not classic, but it's a little more like the old-fashioned Montreal penalty kill where they all kind of collapsed on Patrick Roy and gave away the distance and blocked the shots. So I think that Morris may need 25 games before he really begins to feel it and get in sync with the whole thing, because everything is so much about split-second reaction in hockey, and decision-making is so fast that where coaching and planning meets the reactions of the sport, that requires a lot of reps and a lot of confidence and some other things to go well in order to really begin to gel and make it all work right.
And Morris has naturally been a freelancer type defenseman
in his career.
Instead of someone, say, Ward, where that sort of system is basically built for him.
Yeah, it sure is.
Block lanes and block shots.
And may help Morris in the long run, too, but you're right. His tendencies aren't the way that Ward's would be to settle right in. He's not, he's a pretty cerebral guy, though. Hunwick. He's a jumper. Ferentz is a pretty swift skating player, too, who's had great success in the past and has had such an uneven time lately that you add all these guys in here and at once, and I think that's been a bit of a problem for him.